Think about your phone for just a second. I mean, it's not just a gadget, right? It's everything. It's your wallet, your photo album, your filing cabinet. It's how you connect to the world. We literally pour our entire lives into these little glass rectangles, but we almost never think about the invisible war being fought every single millisecond to keep that life secure. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on the surprising and, yeah, sometimes scary world of mobile security. All right, let's just kick things off with a number that should really make you sit up straight. 38%. According to a massive study, 38% of Android VPN apps, yeah, the very apps we download to protect our privacy, are actually hiding some form of malware. That's more than 1 in 3 of our digital bodyguards secretly working for the other side. And that forces us to ask this really uncomfortable question, doesn't it? When the tool you're using to hide your tracks is actually tracking you, how can you ever really be sure you're safe? What if that privacy app you trust is actually a spy in your pocket? Okay, let's really dive into this because this gets right to the heart of the problem. We all see VPN and we think, security shield, I'm safe. But what the research shows is that free often comes with a very high price. That whole promise of a secure connection, it can be a total illusion, just a front for some pretty sketchy business. And it's not just that they fail, it's how they fail that's so wild. The study found that a full 3/4 of these apps have tracking libraries from companies like Facebook baked right in. A shocking 18%, get this, use zero encryption. That's literally like buying a safe that doesn't have a door. 2/3 of them leak your DNS traffic, which means your internet provider can still see every single site you visit. And some were even caught injecting code to secretly redirect your Amazon or eBay traffic through their partners just so they could skim a commission off your purchases. So look, if the apps designed for just general privacy are that bad, you can only imagine what the stakes are when we start talking about your money. This has basically kicked off a non-stop authentication arms race, where banks and fraudsters are in this constant battle to outsmart each other. For decades, the one thing holding all this together was this simple password. But here's the best part. The guy who pretty much invented the computer password, Fernando Corbado, later admitted that the whole system turned into a kind of nightmare. And you know what? He was absolutely right. Easy passwords are a breeze to guess, and the complex ones are impossible to remember. They're just a fundamentally broken tool for security. And because they're so broken, we've had to evolve. The 60s, that was the era of the static password. Then in the 80s, we got one-time passcodes. Those 6-digit codes you get in a text message. Fast forward to the 2000s, and suddenly fingerprint scanners and Face ID started showing up everywhere. And now, we've got these big industry standards like FIDO and WebAuthn that are trying to finally kill the password for good. And this right here, this marks a huge shift in how we think about security. We went from proving who we are with something we know, like a secret word, to something we are. Your fingerprint, your face, the sound of your voice, these things are uniquely you. And in theory, that makes them much, much harder for someone to just steal and use. You do this every single day without even thinking about it. When you tap your phone to pay for coffee using Apple Pay or Google Pay, you're not sending a password anywhere. You're actually using your phone's super secure hardware, triggered by your fingerprint or your face, to say, yep, this is me. It's so much faster, so much easier, and a total world away from typing password 123. But here's the thing. Working silently behind that seamless little tap-to-pay moment is the real unsung hero of modern security: machine learning. Banks and security firms are now training artificial intelligence to spot fraud way faster than any human possibly could. And this is basically how they do it. It's like a pipeline. First, they just pre-process these enormous mountains of transaction data. Then they sample it to make sure they have enough examples of both good and bad transactions to learn from. Then comes the feature selection, and this is the magic step. This is where the machine learns that, say, a $2 coffee purchase in New York, followed 2 seconds later by a $5,000 TV purchase in Romania, is a giant red flag. An algorithm learns all these patterns, and then they test it against new data to see how smart it's become. And the brains behind this whole operation are these really powerful statistical models. You might hear names thrown around like Support Vector Machine, or SVM, and one called Random Forest. You can think of a random forest model like an army of tiny detectives. Each one looks at the evidence from a slightly different angle, and then they all get together and vote on whether a transaction seems legit. It's that collective brain power that makes them so incredibly powerful.
Just how powerful are we talking? Well, one study that tested these models against Android malware found that while SVM was pretty respectable at about 94% accurate, the random forest model correctly identified malicious apps an incredible 99.11% of the time. I mean, that is machine-driven security working at a nearly perfect level. It's amazing.
So, we've got these amazing biometric locks and AI models with 99% accuracy. We should be totally safe, right? Well, not so fast. Every single system has a weakness, and even our very best defenses have some deep, pretty fundamental flaws.
Let's start with biometrics. The very thing that makes them so secure is also their biggest weakness. Look, if your password gets leaked in some big data breach, you just change it. Yeah, it's annoying, but you can recover. But what happens if a database of fingerprints gets stolen? What do you do then? You can't exactly go out and get a new thumb. That data is compromised. Forever.
And it's not always about the apps. Sometimes the phone's operating system itself is the weakest link. Remember that stage fright bug on Android a while back? A single flaw, deep in the code that handles video messages, put nearly 1 billion devices at risk of a complete takeover. It just goes to show it doesn't matter how strong the lock on your front door is if the entire foundation of the house is cracked. This really gets down to the two core philosophies in mobile security. You've got Android, which is open. Think of it like a sprawling city with roads going everywhere. That gives you incredible freedom to customize things and install whatever you want, but it also creates way more routes for criminals to get in. Then you've got iOS, which is the complete opposite. It's a fortress, a walled garden where Apple controls every single thing that comes in and out. It's way more secure, but you have to live by their rules, no exceptions. And really, at the end of the day, this whole discussion boils down to one simple truth. Mobile security isn't about finding some perfect, magical solution. It's about constantly navigating a series of trade-offs between security, privacy, and just plain convenient. I mean, this table lays it all out perfectly. Just take the App Store, for example. On Android, you can download apps from anywhere, which is super flexible, but also pretty risky. On iOS, you've got one store, it's heavily policed, which is safer but way more restrictive. Android gives you total freedom to customize your device. iOS gives you a consistent, locked-down experience. Neither one of these is objectively better. They just prioritize completely different things. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. If our privacy apps might be spying on us and our biometrics can be stolen forever, and every single operating system has holes, what does real digital safety even look like? Maybe it's less about finding some magic bullet technology and more about just understanding these trade-offs and being a little smarter about the choices we make every single time we pick up our phones.